we had a session about mastermind about negotiations not long ago with Doug and a few other agents from our other offices, and Doug reached out and say, hey, how's it going to look like if you're going to do more of a kind of like, practice, right? Like more of a one-on-one virtually, or maybe, at least for the sake of more engaging session that we can really, talk the strategies and the different skills about negotiations. And, when Doug asking something, as being such a good negotiator, I cannot say no, right? And then he said, like, how about if I even, have maybe Omid join the call, and we, maybe it's kind of like do a role play here and there, and share more of it. I'm like, I think people will appreciate that, right? So I'm super excited about that, and thank you guys for, once again, Doug, for your leadership, Omid for your leadership, and being such a great team players and making yourself available. And whoever is on the call, this is, hopefully, to your sake and whatever that is going to take it from here, a more kind of like interactive session. That's why we also did a Zoom versus, we broadcast, and you on Facebook just check it out and make comments. So having said that, Doug, take it from here.
Okay, so took a poll and hang on one second, I'm getting a bad echo.
I'm going to mute everybody else. I'm not talking for now.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Okay, so took a poll and got some things that were popular with people, and commission and listing type items are always the most popular, and we can certainly get into that. However, talking with Omid and so forth, got some things that could help navigate around some simple objections that we get from people, and perhaps we can do one. Says, somebody says, I'd like to think about it overnight, or, I'd like to think about it before I make a decision. We can tackle that on. How's that sound?
Exciting.
I'm sorry, I only heard one person.
We're all muted. We're muted.
You're muted? What kind of interaction is that?
I like the topic, Doug. I've had 2 clients this last week say to me, in front of another agent, I'm going to take it. And then, okay, send me the app. They send it and they come up with something, and something stupid. Like, oh, I didn't know I'd have to put that much deposit down. Well, there it is right there. Something like that. And twice that's happened to me when they were sat there and said, yes, I'm going to take it. So I'd like to hear that. I mean, I tell you what I've been saying, but go ahead. I want to hear your wisdom, please.
Very good. And then the other one that thinking about tackling is that when a seller feels that an offer should have been written by now. Everybody go through that one? See something. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, let's see who's on the call here.
By the way, feel free to, you can always unmute yourself if you want to participate. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, very good. So one of the things is we're going to start with labels, because labels are really the core of what's going on. It's the core of emotional intelligence. And really, this is an emotional game. It could be said that it's about fact, it's about reason, and it's about logic. And it is, until the contract is signed. Once the paper is inked, it becomes emotional. So anybody make a decision and you try to justify it through being logical, being factual, using reason. And then once you decide to make that purchase, it becomes emotional. Yes, no?
Definitely.
Yep.
All right, very good. So what we want to do is we want to get emotionally intelligent with our counterpart, with that person that we're dealing with. So if somebody says, I want to think about it overnight before I make a decision. A label typically starts with, it looks like, it sounds like, it feels like. We want to take I out of that equation. Like, well, I think you should do this, or we don't want to do that. So if somebody says, I'll throw out a couple to get it rolling. How's that sound? And this is going to be an interactive workshop so we can all grow and learn. If we don't participate, we're not going to learn. And if we don't learn, we're not going to grow. Agreed?
Amen.
So you could say something like, something simple. And the thing we want to do before we get going is we want to think and feel what they're experiencing in that moment when they say that. So if somebody says, I'd like to think about it overnight before I make a decision, what do you think they're feeling and thinking at that moment?
They're not sure about you.
Right. They're not sure about a situation. It could be you, it could be them. It could be a lot of things. That's our job to find out. And thank you, Omid. And the way that we're going to find out is through labels. Because if we start questioning people, it'll probably be successful the first 2 or 3 times, and after you keep questioning them, they don't like it, and then they may start lying. So when we get on the emotional side, the emotionally intelligent side, they're more apt to be more honest, and they start talking. And when people start talking, right, they don't want to be quiet because they love the sound of their own voice more than anyone's own voice. And they love the sound of their name more than anything else. Right, Christine?
Yeah, I was going to say, determining too, if you're knowing what kind of buyer you're dealing with, if it's a buyer or seller, if they're a logical buyer or emotional buyer. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And you could have a couple where the woman is the emotional and the husband is, so you have to gear your conversation, your things to appease both of them to make them both feel comfortable with their decision.
Absolutely. Right? So that's why, very good. Thank you for bringing that up. So Stephanie, you haven't moved in like 5 minutes. How are you? So not pretty cool. So the thing is we can ask this to both parties and see where they're coming from. And sometimes they'll look at each other because they don't want to say the wrong answer, right? So what do you think a person's thinking and feeling when they say that, I'd like to think about it overnight before I make a decision?
Doubt, uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Fear-based.
Yeah, everything's based in fear, right? Everything. So what if you threw something out, something very simple, again, starts with it seems like, it sounds like, it feels like, could be it looks like. You'd say, well, it seems like you're in no particular rush to make a decision. So Omid, you and I can role play that one.
Nope. Ready.
Yeah, so just, say, I'd like to think about it.
You know what, Doug, let me think about it. Thank you for the input. Just want to think about it overnight. Is that okay?
It sounds like you're in no particular rush to make a decision.
Not particularly. I mean, I'd like to make a decision soon, but not.
Soon?
Yeah. Because I like to get my house sold,
And what kind of time frame are you looking at?
Well, I think next day or two.
Well, I'm going to pause out of the role play for a minute. If you're looking to sell in the next day or two, I don't think you want to think about it overnight.
Well, no, I mean list in the next day or two. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. All right. Well, Omid, when I hear something like that, it sounds like you're thinking that I may not be the best agent for the job.
Well, I don't know, Doug. There's a few things. I think you've definitely given me a lot of information. I don't. If you're necessarily not an agent, just want to talk it over with my wife and kind of see where we're at. But I like what you're saying.
So, where is that going right now? You can all see where this is going. Nowhere. So there's something called the fool or the favorite. Right now, I'm not a favorite. I'm a fool. because Omid is more or less pumping me out for free advice, free consultation, seeing where I'm coming from, getting my angle, because he probably has a realtor already in mind that he's going to list with. Right, Omid?
Maybe just feeling it out, but possibly.
Yeah. I'm clearly not the favorite.
Doug, it's also sounds like he's not willing to commit.
Right.
Absolutely. And the thing is when there's a favorite, there's a trust factor involved. And when you're the fool, it's based on money. Like, what's the lowest commission? Could be anything. When it's based on trust, though, commission generally isn't an issue.
Right.
So how could you, I'm going to jump around here, just it's easy to follow the A to B marks here. So how could you find out if you're the favorite up front? Before you do all the prep work with the comps and everything like that, you can do this over the phone or on a Zoom call, however you're doing it these days, meeting with people. Some of the things you can say, or I'll say one of the things you can say is right now is whatever, you have some small talk and you say, you know, so-and-so, out of all the agents that are out there, all of the good agents that are out there, why would you want to hire me?
Well, I think you've been, giving me great information, the comps, the area, and really appreciate your time. You've given me that value that I'm looking for. So I think you're my guy. That's how it would be different if you were going to say different and you have that trust, right?
Sure. So is it okay if we role play that real quick with the opposite? So it sounds like I'm a favorite at this point.
Right.
Homie. Okay, I'll be the fool this time. So go ahead and I'll ask the same question and then you're not sure about me.
Okay.
So, Omid, with all the great agents out there and so many realtors, why would you want to work with me?
Well, you've brought a lot of value, and like I said, I'm not sure if I want to work with you yet. I mean, it'd be definitely a possibility. I like the value you brought. Just need to sleep on it. That's what I'm thinking right now.
So what's everybody feeling right now when they hear that? Go ahead. 0052.
Pushback, concern. It's Jasmine, by the way.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Nice to hear from you.
Likewise.
I'll call you 0052 from now on.
I love that.
I'm going to say just indecision. He's waffling and stalling.
Right.
So he's waffling with trying to not piss you off by saying, I have another realtor, or really, maybe he really, there is a possibility that he wants to think about it, or maybe he has to talk to his wife or something, but it's not a positive that it's, yay, they want you.
Right.
It's not positive. I wouldn't bet that he was going to list his house with you right this moment.
Right. So what's a label? Thank you, Christine. What's a label? Anybody can come shout out at this point that can be used if that's what you think that they're thinking and feeling. I've got company right now. My dog's coming up. Does anybody want to go ahead and throw something in that says, well, it seems like, it feels like, it sounds like, etc., and try that?
Would you ask a qualifying question like something like I've heard you say before, but like, is there something I can convey to you, or is there something more you need to hear, or something? I can't put it in words exactly, but I know you've said things like that before. Is there what is it that you need to have to make you have that decision? What is it that you need to know? What is it you need? Is there something else I need to explain to you before you can make that decision?
Yeah, that sounds great. So let's use that one, okay? And we'll convert that into a label. So we're going to take I out of it. So, what was the main thing that you had there?
For me, are you talking to me?
No, Christine. Thank you.
filling in the blank of where he's in question. What is his question mark, basically? So that's where I would try to figure out if there's some other information that I can give him.
Okay, so you could say, it sounds like there's some information more information that you need. And so what would you say? So
Yeah, and I would reply, there's some more information I could use right now, like how, I'm just gonna throw something out. It's like, how soon do you think you can, sell my house? What do you think how long it would take? And I've heard different things, so I think that's on my mind. Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it sounds like you have some questions about the process of listing your home.
Correct. And the commission, I think the two things are like, what price I can get for the house and what the commission is and how long will that process take. So,
Right.
a few inputs. So I want to make a decision on that, but we like what you're saying. So we are leaning towards you, Doug.
Okay. So this is actually, I just wanted to stay on that point of getting to think and feel what you're feeling, right? As a seller with that question. So typically I'll just say when we have that initial phone call, I would get the commission out up front and early. All the stuff that people don't want to talk about, get it out right away, because why be surprised later on? Like, call out the elephant in the room early and call it out often. So if they say, we'll jump around a little bit, we'll go ahead and answer. As somebody says, what's your commission? What's your fee, right?
Yeah, what's your commission, Doug? Just out of curiosity, it's probably good to know while we're thinking on it.
Yeah. So here's a precursor that must be said. If you're working real estate as you should be, you should be prospecting at a minimum of 2 hours a day, at least making 20 contacts a day. And if you're not doing that, then you're just hoping for anything to come your way and hoping that something sticks. Is that fair to say? Show of hands. So keep in mind that you've got to be prospecting. So when you do, and somebody says that, you could say, well, Mead, I need to bring one thing up that could be a possible sticking point.
Need to bring one thing up that's a sticking point?
Yeah, my fee.
Yeah, exactly, your fee. That's what I'd like to know.
I'm a full service, full fee agent. My fee is 6%. I keep 3.5% and pay the agent that represents the buyer 2.5%. This is probably going to be a deal breaker for you.
Well, I think 6% is higher than a couple of other numbers that we've gotten. May I ask what warrants 6% versus, we've gotten 4% and 3.5% or so. So I'd like to know what that is, what the reason for that is.
Well, would it surprise you to know that typically you have to pay more in order to get more?
Wow. No, it doesn't surprise me.
So it's a no setup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it gives them more power and control rather than leading them to yes. So we talked about that in the last call. So clearly I'm not the favorite. Can everybody feel that? Because when you're the favorite and there's trust involved, it's like, if you're purchasing a car and you're purchasing a smart car, no offense to smart cars, but they're probably on the lower end of the price spectrum, and you're purchasing or thinking about purchasing a 7 Series BMW, it's a completely different buyer.
Right.
The BMW is clearly more expensive. The person that's purchasing the smart car could maybe easily afford that BMW. But for them, it's about the money.
Right.
Right? Because they have they know they're going to spend a certain amount for a certain car. So if there's no trust, they're trusting in that car, the image it's going to portray, the feeling that they're going to have, etc. So on an agent, there's no trust in me from the feedback that I'm getting from Omid. So
And in contrast, if it was a trusting situation, I go, you know what, Doug, really appreciate your time. I think 6% is very fair. Let's do it. Thank you for giving me all the information you have. I know you've done deals in the area. You know the neighborhood. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So you're going to hear more things like that when you're the favorite. When you're the fool, you're going to get an objection. And an objection really isn't an objection. Everybody understand that? Alvin?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It sounds like it would probably be just a push off to, why they're really concerned, but they're throwing out those objections first to kind of give themselves some, distance from having to reveal that.
Absolutely, because, thank you for that, because typically the question behind the question or the objection behind the objection is more important than the objection that's being asked or being presented. There's always something behind that that's making them ask that. It's usually not what it is. People usually hide behind something, or they like to. I know a person that was curious about X, Y, and Z. That person that they're referring to as themselves. Anybody ever do that? Or ask it in a third person type of environment?
Yep.
Yeah, we all do. Or you do an internet search and you said, what would, it's just, we can third party it out. So let's go through some labels and get this going so you guys can really get a feel for what it's like. So let's go back to, what was it? Oh, they want to think about it before they make a decision, right? Or sleep on it overnight.
Yeah.
So you could say, right, it seems like you have a really good reason for wanting to wait until you make a decision.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. We can say, like we use the other one, you said, it seems like you're in no particular rush to make a decision. That works too. So how about this one? Would it be wrong to assume that it sounds like you're having second thoughts on working with me?
Yes, that's correct. We have some second thoughts.
Okay.
Not necessarily, you're just picking the right agent.
The right agent?
The right agent for our needs. Mm-hmm.
And what would those needs be?
Well, it's a balance of, the commission we got to pay out and how we work with that agent and the connection we have with that agent. I think the connection with the agent and feeling it out, that's kind of important to us, to both of us have that connection. And I feel very strongly with you. So you're likely a good candidate.
Yeah. Omid, how have you made a decision about hiring an agent in the past?
It's come down to trusting them and liking them, them coming through with their word, and knowing that they have the will and the experience to get our home sold.
So you guys get an idea of how he's doing all the talking and I'm doing all the listening, right?
But you're also asking questions.
More or less, well, there was a question, it's a how or what question, right? It's a calibrated question. And a how or what question, sometimes why, but mostly how or what, is when you really want to go ahead and get a feel for where they're coming from. And then you can go ahead and shape their thinking, because now that they're unpacking their brain for you, you can lead them to where you want to lead them, if you want to. I would say this right now at that, what Omid's saying, there's no silver bullet. There's nothing, there's no magic script. There's nothing. If the emotion isn't there, it's not there. Sometimes you can strong arm them and things like that, but that's not what this is about. That's not the context of this call, of this meeting. So you heard the difference of a feeling of trust versus a feeling of distrust. Or
Doug, I have a question.
Not quite ready yet. Yes, 0052.
How much does body language play into your choice of the label you choose to use?
A whole lot.
Because some of the labels I feel might put the seller or would put the seller in a defensive position.
Absolutely. So it depends what you want to do with the label, right? So here's the thing. It could put them in a defensive situation. However, this must be stated. If they truly want to work with you, they will not be defensive.
Okay.
They can't, because you're there to help them and they trust you, so that they value your help and listen to it. They don't get offended.
Okay, after all that, what if they truly, because of just the amount of information we give them, they really need that time to think about it?
Then give it to them. I mean, we're not gonna twist their arm and change their mind. That's why you prospect. So
Correct.
the calls are always coming in. What happens is that when people don't prospect and they're just, something comes in and they need to hold on to that, that's where they start explaining themselves, exercising their ego, telling their counterpart how great they are, and bragging and all that kind of stuff. This isn't about bragging. It's about finding out where they're coming from. Are we the right fit?
Perfect. Thank you.
Setting up everything up front, like talk about the commission up front. Why wait till the very end and then everything goes good up until that point?
I had a question, Doug. What about as far as like the agent themselves, like seeing if they are a good fit for the seller?
Absolutely.
Is that something you bring into the listing appointment? Like when you're feeling it, is that something you mention or not mention? Let's say you have unrealistic expectations and so what do you do with that? How do you deal with intelligent emotions behind that?
Unpack their brain right away. I'm going to tell you the fee, it's probably going to be a sticking point. It's probably going to be a deal breaker. I'm going to set them up with lots of bad news. And then if you really are the favorite, they're like 6%, that's not bad news.
Right.
See what I'm saying? That's how. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I mean, in a short nugget, I mean, I'll clarify if need be. Is everybody clear on that?
Yes.
Okay. So, Jasmine.
Yes.
So back to your question, though. Again, is it clear though that you're their favorite? They wouldn't be offended or insulted?
I can accept that. Yes.
Okay.
But I also think that I've been in situations where they truly have needed the time in order to just digest the amount of information, especially if I've been the first agent out and they've told me ahead of time they're having multiple agents that they'd be interviewing.
Yeah, that's good. Always, if you can, there is an advantage to going last. There is.
Yes.
I mean, nothing's guaranteed. However, there is an advantage to going last. Though the thing is, just on the if we can isolate just the part about insulting them or making them feel in a certain way, I want to handle that, because you can do that if you want to, and even if they do trust you, right? Because you can say certain things that are sarcastic with the label. You can say anything with the label. Really, the label is designed because you want to find out what they're thinking and feeling. So if you put yourself in their shoes at that moment, from the information that they've given you so far, and you say, what are they thinking and feeling? That's what your objective is.
Correct.
You can come up with a label. So so you could say this, well, Jasmine, it sounds like you'd prefer to not have to make an immediate commitment.
I agree.
Is that insulting?
No, not at all.
Does that make you feel good, like I understand you?
Yes, better than the first choice of the first scenario we were running through, where sounds like you're not ready to make a decision. My walls go up.
Right. So that's the thing. So sometimes when we get it wrong, it can actually be more of a benefit to us too. Just as a side note, that's called a mislabel. So sometimes we can do the complete opposite of what they're thinking, and then they'll correct you. Because people they love to correct you, right? They want to show you how smart they are. They want to butt in, typically. So we can learn a lot of information from mislabels too. So I'm throwing out a lot of stuff here and still working on staying on the path. Is everybody still feel like we're cohesive right now, or are we drifting too much?
Definitely cohesing.
We're good? Okay. Just taking the temperature, making sure that we're on track. So there's so much information. I've been doing this over 3 years, this particular style, and I feel like right now I'm just starting to scratch the surface. So it sounds easy, it sounds simple, and like I said, right now I feel like I just started. With all the stuff I'm learning, I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like a baby again, which is a good thing. So you could say, or you could say, it seems like giving yourself the proper amount of time to process things is important to you.
Yes, I appreciate that. Yes. It's a lot to absorb, and it's a big decision. So yeah, it is important to me.
Now watch this one. Okay. Sounds like you having more time makes it easier for you to process things. I'm just rearranging the words, right?
Yes.
It still could be a new label. Sounds like having more time makes it easier for you to process things.
Yes, that's correct.
How would you like to proceed?
Well, what I'd like to do is process it and give you a call tomorrow and list with you, just so we process it, we figure out the timelines and what we'd like to do, and just discuss the process. But you're our guy. Looking forward to working with you.
Great. Okay. I'll call you tomorrow. Is around 11 o'clock sound good?
That's perfect.
Or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. But, always follow up with them. Don't have them follow up with you. Take control. So how did that sound, Jasmine?
Easy, flowing, give and take for both parties.
Yeah. So did you notice, though, that at the end we put a calibrated question? How would you like to proceed?
Yes. That's the best part of it.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're giving them the power. We're not fighting them with an objection. An objection handler. Excuse me.
Agreed.
Right? So who wants to throw out, or Omid, if you have one, what's a typical objection for, I'd like to think about it. There's a million of them, but the ones that they give you in the scripts.
They have other agents that they think would be a better fit.
Maybe. I think you're a good fit, but I think we're gonna go with you. You sound pretty good. It's just it's been a lot of information we've got to process.
I'm meeting with another agent tomorrow.
Who wants to take that?
Another agent tomorrow?
Yeah, where the seller's meeting with the second agent.
Right. Is that a question for me?
That's a question. Yeah. Well, if that's the objection, how is that handled?
So I'm sorry. I must have made a mistake and I didn't realize it. I was saying, as realtors, let's give an objection that we would typically give to a seller that comes out with something like that. Like I'll give you one to start out, okay? Like a Mike Ferry one, the old classic Mike Ferry script says, well, hey, I'd like to think about it, before we make a decision. Well, since 3 minds are better than 2, why don't we all think out loud together? Who's heard that one? Right? Yeah. So Jasmine, chime in, please. How does that make you feel if you were the seller?
That I'm still engaged in a dialogue.
Okay.
It makes me, if truly I'm not ready, it makes me feel uncomfortable. But if I'm really looking to find answers to if this is the right fit for me or to list my home with this person, then I'd feel comfortable with the dialogue.
Okay. So if you said I'd like to think about it overnight before I make a decision, say that.
I'd like to think about it overnight before I make a decision.
Okay. Well, I'm here and you're here, and since 2 minds are better than 1, why don't we think about it right now out loud together?
Okay.
How do you feel?
I'm not terrific.
Right. Well, you feel.
I feel like I'm put in a corner.
Thank you. I was going to say boxed in. So do you see the difference in contrast with a label?
Yes.
Or using an emotionally intelligent approach? We're not putting them in a corner. We're not fighting. We're we're not forcing anything. We're not pushing anything. We're understanding how they're thinking and feeling.
Right.
Yes.
Because it's emotion that's going to drive the decision, and vision creates decision.
Agreed.
Okay. How much time do we? Okay. Let's move on to, we can come back to that too if you'd like. How about a seller that wants to price too high? Anybody go into stuff like that? Get involved with those situations?
Yep.
Omid?
Yes, definitely.
So what could you say? What's something that if a seller wants to price too high, what are they probably thinking and feeling?
They're feeling their home is either one of two things. They're feeling their home is kind of special, or it's something very unique in the market, or they really don't have a knowledge of how it works. It's usually one of those two.
Okay.
The comps, or what's usually like, because they have a sentimental connection to it or whatever they put into it, they think it's worth more than, well, that house that sold didn't have this or didn't have that. Usually it's how it goes.
Yeah. So anybody, can somebody come in and put it seems like, it feels like, or it sounds like, it seems like, let's say this, let's just use what you just said, Omid, the last thing you said, or something like that. It says, well, it sounds like you feel that with all the upgrades in your home that it's worth more than all the others that have sold in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. Yeah, we put a lot of work into this house.
Okay.
The crown moldings, and we put all the GFCIs out there. Home down the road didn't have GFCI outlets.
Yeah.
Outside.
Yeah. Right. And yeah, so that's pretty typical stuff, right? So we get an idea of where they're coming from. So what could you say after that? Anybody? All right, I'll bail you out again. You can say, how about this? So it sounds like you've been looking online to get an idea of what your home is worth.
I have, actually. I've looked at the, not fully, but I've looked at some solds in the area.
And what have you come up with?
Well, I just think, the ones that have sold don't have the unique characteristics of my property. I have a little better view than that other property that sold. And, we just put a lot of work in the house. So I'm looking at it. I think my house is worth a little more than that. That's got the same exact floor plan and same year and looks similar, but I just know we put a lot of work in this house.
Okay. So could somebody throw in some kind of label to that? What do you think he's thinking and feeling right now?
Detached from reality? No.
What's that? Yeah.
From reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's feeling like maybe he doesn't know exactly what the comps and how it works and what the home actually is worth. He's thinking, for example, 930 or 920, where it's really worth 860 or 840, something like that.
Yeah. So so let's say you present the comparables and everything, and then what if they still want to go ahead and list high? Has that ever happened to anyone? Show of hands. Okay. What could you say then? Clearly, you're not the you're not the favorite. You're not the trusted, right? At that point, well, what could you say to get on an emotionally intelligent plane with the seller?
Seems like you've done your research as far as what your house is worth.
Okay. And it's still, let's say it's an 800,000 range, 800 to 850,000 market value price range, and they want to sell it for, they want to list it for 900, 50,000 over the highest sale in the neighborhood that's been completely redone. Remember calibrated questions? We could ask a calibrated question, right? Like, how is overpricing your property going to enable me to help you get what you want?
Oh, that's a good question. Quite not sure that it's overpriced. Can you explain?
Well, we just went over the comps again. Don't forget that. And clearly the highest priced one that's completely redone, everything came in at 850.
So in that case, it would be more like, you know what? It's not going to help me at all, actually, now that I think about it.
Okay.
It's going to make my house stay on the market more because I'm priced higher.
So how would you like to proceed?
I'd like to go with the price you suggest.
Okay. So you get the idea how you can shape their decision just by asking certain questions. And if he's completely out of reality, then he's out of reality. And then it's your choice of whether you want to continue to move forward with that person or not. There's an old rule of thumb, and some people subscribe to it, some people don't. And it goes like this: no deal is better than a bad deal. Because pretty much guaranteed that transaction is going to tie you up, and you'll most likely not be the happiest camper in the world. And again, if you're prospecting regularly and doing what you should, you're making room for the great clients to come in. True or true?
True.
True.
Okay. So you can also say too, if you start off as an overpriced listing, how can I get you what you want? Right? I mean, you can just saying, you don't have to answer that one. How does that feel though? How does that sound to everyone?
It's like being realistic.
Houses are not selling by the seller's emotions. Houses are selling by the real estate market.
Very good. So you could turn that into a label, right? It seems like you're thinking that houses are selling by emotions, and although they're sold by the real estate market, the buyer demand, or the buyer interest. That could be easily made into a label. Does everyone see that? Okay, how about working with another agent? What are some of the things that can be said? Like say you're in negotiations, it's a request for repair situation, right? It's expensive. We talked a little bit about this on the last one. What's something that could be said? Label.
You're not sure to work with me. If you were sure 100% to work with me, you wouldn't bring this question. So let's have a listing, and then if you don't like my services, you can cancel it anytime.
Okay, thank you for that. This is working with another agent right now. Say you're in a request for repair situation, and they come in with a high request for repair, and you're the listing agent. Could you say something like, how am I supposed to convince my client that this is fair?
It's a good one.
Okay. Where's the data to support your client's position on this?
Correct.
Not really a label, but you can throw that out, just to throw it out. And so what would you say, Omid, if I said, how am I supposed to position this to my client? You're the buyer's agent with a high, you know, an inflated request for repair.
Inflated RR. You know, they're just really concerned about all these repairs that we're going to do. They thought this stuff was all taken care of, and they want to go into a house where all these conditions are taken care of.
Sounds like, oh,
And partly because, you know, they don't have the money to make all these fixes themselves.
okay. So it sounds like you're under a little bit of pressure with your buyers then.
A little bit.
So all that being said, how does this move the transaction forward?
Well, we're hoping to move it forward and hope that it doesn't stall.
Stall?
Yeah, or like, you know, we don't want to cancel. We want to move forward with the transaction, and we're hoping the seller would be reasonable with demands for the requests.
Okay. Well, would it be crazy to think that you'd be willing to write an email to the seller to explain your client's position?
No, not at all. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Another option is, would it be crazy to think that you'd like to meet face-to-face with the sellers and explain your client's position? Sometimes people don't like that, but it's whatever you feel. That's always an option to get their side rather than you explaining it. Let the counterpart do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and I noticed for a second in ours when it's inflated, usually a lot of buyers have a hard time having a distinction between remodeling and upgrading versus actually, you know, fixing anything that actually is broken and needs to get fixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You gotta make your buyers educated to make that distinction that, hey, you know, there's not a remodel or upgrade. This is, you know, fixing anything that's broken.
Right. That's a good point. And that should be done by the buyer's agent always, right? The education, right. Because that house is still livable. It's not a brand new house. I mean, if it's not a brand new house, still things are working.
Yeah, believe it or not, sometimes the selling agents, we have to tell the buyer's agent because they don't know, right? Sometimes.
Yeah, good point. So what if we, you know, you go ahead and you write the email, you sit down with the sellers, right? And we have a meeting and they still, the seller still refuses because it's just so out of whack that they're pissed off, right? It's emotional, right? It's not based on fact, reason, or logic. It's based on emotion. So what could you say? You could say something like, given that my client refuses to X, right? To pay X amount, would you be opposed to working together and figuring out a solution so that we can move forward and get this transaction closed?
I'd like that a lot. That sounds very good.
It's like offering counter offer and rejecting the offer. You know, you offer them to work with each other, or you suppose counter offer say that, okay, I give you discount for that, or you completely reject that offer.
Certainly a possibility. Sounds like you've been in this situation before.
No.
No?
No.
So, Omid, based on that, so I could say something to the end of that, like, well, you know, how do you propose we move forward?
Well, maybe you can also send me an email saying that where your seller's position and why they think they should be done, or, you know, how I should take that to my buyers, and I will do the same with the sellers, and, you know, bring.
Well, we've already done that, right? We had that email or that face-to-face meeting to explain your client's position. Now the sellers are saying they're not going to do that, right? Given that my client refuses to pay, you know, $90,000 in request for repairs, would you be opposed to working together and figuring out a solution so that we can move forward and get this transaction closed?
Absolutely. I will go and speak with my buyers. I know they want the house a lot, and I'm going to ask them to see if they're willing to compromise and come to an agreement, to a new price agreement, something that's more reasonable for the seller.
If it is a seller's market, seller probably would object to that. But if it's a buyer's market, they are willing to do that. The seller is willing to do that, probably.
Probably?
Yes.
How so?
Because at the seller's market, ball is in the seller's ground. Buyer's market, ball is on the buyer's ground. So the seller, if it's the market is for the seller can refuse it. But if there is a buyer's market, the buyer can push the seller to do everything, most probably.
So this transaction is in escrow.
In escrow.
So at that time, would it be worth taking the chance to have it fall out of escrow?
This is a chance, probably is a 50-50, and maybe it depends on how far the escrow goes. If it's by the almost end of the escrow, maybe that's that would be dangerous for the buyer. But if it's suppose in the middle or I don't know, beginning, that would be fine. That's what I think. I don't know.
So Bruce, I have a question. If this is a real situation, how's my client supposed to do that?
Well, it has to analyze that. Suppose if the buyer is really a genuine buyer and the FICO score and also all the pre-qualifications and the price that really seller wants is paying, he has to give the buyer some kind of discount.
Has to give the buyer a discount?
About the suppose fixing the things that buyer wants.
So you're saying that the seller has to fix some of the things that the buyer wants?
No, some kind of discount. Some kind of discount give to the buyer. That buyer gets happy. Say that okay, he didn't refuse. The seller didn't refuse to do anything for me.
Well, Bruce, this is a situation where let's say they're gouging. Let's say there's nothing wrong with the home. They're nitpicking on things. The home is in fine health for the year that it was made.
I don't know. What do you think, Omid?
Well, I think you do have a point. I mean, if it's a seller's market, they have the ball more in their hand. If it's a buyer's market, they have the ball in their hand. But at the end of the day, it's up to the seller if they really, it's got so many variables. Do the sellers really need to sell or can they sit on it? It's the many factors, or is it reasonable? Was the request, at the beginning to start out was so unreasonable that the sellers were like, they just got turned off, like Doug said. So it's just about, I think bringing everybody back to a reasonable median price. And I've had all of that happen. I've had it, be very unreasonable and the sellers need to sell. And and they've agreed, and I've had it be very high, and the sellers didn't need to sell and could wait, and they passed and they closed, they canceled escrow. So it could go really whichever way. But negotiation is best to bring everybody to a very reasonable and median moment where everybody, recognize, it's repairs, it's not. I don't know, Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Again, this is a situation where the buyers are clearly gouging.
The sellers would definitely say no. If they're feeling getting gouged, they're definitely gonna say, you know what, we're not gonna, bite on this. That's what sellers that feel like they're gouging, they're definitely not gonna bite on it.
So yeah,
Doug, I thought I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I thought you posed an interesting question kind of as it pertains to that in terms of whether or not it'd be worth posing the question of if it'd be worth, falling out of escrow. I know that sometimes when you take things away from people, it makes them more inclined to be flexible and, actually want to kind of go with the more flexible approach to get things done. So I was wondering what your stance would be in terms of actually saying, well, hey, would it be safe to assume that, if my client is unwilling to do this, that we should move on to the next offer? You know what I mean? As a potential label.
Sure. If they're unreasonable, you can say, well, so put that into a label form.
So would it be safe to assume that, we should go ahead and move on to considering the next offer?
Okay. So, so I could say, well, let me talk to my clients and see how it goes. Because don't forget, the agent wants a paycheck, right?
Right.
The agent wants a paycheck. Don't they want to get paid? They went through all this work and effort.
Yes.
So there's more than just one party involved here. So we got to think about what's really going on behind the scenes. And also, by the way, I said it in the last call, is that you want to set it up front with a proper counteroffer so that you know who's going to really be in the game. So it's good that this got taken a little bit outside the guidelines because we got to think a little bit broader on this, and that's a nice thing. And I think our time is up. Meny, is our time up?
You can stretch for like 5 more minutes, Doug.
Okay. So Alvin, what, a label or a calibrated question? Can you think of something like that?
In that same type of scenario?
Yeah, just what you touched on, just to close it off nicely.
So would it be safe to assume that you do not want to move forward or would it be safe to assume that there is not a middle ground that we can meet?
It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like. Start with that.
It sounds like there may not be a middle ground for us to be able to meet in order to move this transaction forward.
That's nice. And that could be a mislabel, right? That could totally be incorrect because they might want to go through with it no matter what, and they're just bluffing.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is a mislabel, let's just say, or a true label, if it's a mislabel, they're going to give you more information than you ever wanted to know, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very good. That was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, very good job. Get the hang of it, right? It's just,
yeah.
So even if you don't get what they're thinking and feeling, you're wrong, it turns into a natural mislabel.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Please.
I might be a little bit late to it sounds like this is coming from maybe a previous meeting, but the labeling thing, if you can just quickly describe the benefit of, because it's how you're correcting people to form it. Is there, how do you define a label?
So it's really, to simplify it, it's identifying, you putting yourself in that person's, the other person, the counterpart's place. What are they thinking and feeling?
Okay.
So
that it's coming from go ahead.
If I'm putting myself in your place right now, I'm thinking, so it sounds like you're not clear on what a label really is.
Got it. Okay.
How does that feel?
It feels good because it feels like you fully understand me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all this is about, is understanding people, not fighting with them, not
Perfect.
like, well, great, since you and I are here together and since two minds are better than one, let's think out loud,
Yeah, we're
not
both
about
aiming towards the same goal and we're letting each other know that.
Yeah, that's what this is all about. how we get to requests for repairs and things like that, you know, we set things up in counteroffer so that we know that we're doing our best to get the best buyer in. But right now, for the purpose and the context of this meeting, we're just going through labels just to get an idea, right? And some calibrated questions and, you know, a few other things too, mostly focusing on these labels. So you see like that's a good example, Dylan. And it felt good when it was given back to you? Like you felt like I understood you?
No, for sure. Yeah. And it seems like it makes it clear that that's what you're attempting to do too. You're not putting words in my mouth, and it also gives me the opportunity to correct you.
Right. Which makes you feel very powerful.
Yes.
Right? Because
Yes.
people love to correct other people, don't they?
Agreed.
And they love to tell people no too.
That's, yes, 100%.
So, okay. That's going to sum it up for today, and appreciate the time.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate
Awesome.
that.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you, thank
Yeah.
you, Meny.
Good
So
luck.
good.
Thank you, everybody.
Many.
Bye-bye.
Doug, thank you. Amit, thank you. Thanks, everybody. And
Bye.
Doug,
Bye, guys.
we'll
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Amit.
we'll talk about the next session
Thanks,
whenever.
Amit.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Good
Bye.
job.